What is the dumbest question someone legitimately asked you? What nationality are you? Canadian. No, I mean, what nationality? Do you mean heritage? Polish I guess. No, listen, nationality. I don't know what you're asking. Whispers, nationality, like, are you white, black, etc. Just look at me, I'm white as snow, and that's not nation. Cool, I didn't want to assume anything. Oh, you're Asian? I thought you were Chinese. Boss, could you print out that file, scan it, and email it to me? I could just email it to you. Boss, ugh. I have a coworker who is younger than me, who insists on printing out every single thing he needs to give to me. Like, dude, it was in PDF, or an image format. Why in hell do you need to print it? Bring it to me, so that I can scan it again. You got this via email yourself. When I moved back to Florida from Scotland, a girl I was hitting on at a bar asked me how long a drive that was. When I moved from Texas to Hawaii, I took my truck. One guy saw the Texas plates and said, "How did you get your truck over here?" "Low tide," I said. As another Hawaii person, I had the same question once, although I didn't vocalize it, but it was less "did you drive the car over water" and more "I temporarily forgot about the existence of cargo ships and tried to imagine fitting a car on a passenger plane." Not my finest moment, lol. Not anything super mind-boggling, but I worked as a server at an infamous Italian restaurant during college. Here's my interaction with a guest one evening. "Gee, I'd like to order the spaghetti with marinara sauce, but can I get fettuccine noodles instead?" Sure thing. "Gee, oh, and I'd like to please substitute the marinara with Alfredo sauce. And please add chicken." I would have to charge you for the chicken Alfredo, then. Note there was a few dollars in price difference between the two dishes, Alfredo being more expensive. Gee, but I ordered the spaghetti with marinara. I legitimately had to argue with this person for a few moments as to why I couldn't magically substitute out the entire entree for a different one with no price difference. Guest ended up being super crabby for the remainder of the time, and I'm fairly certain didn't tip at all. "Yay, can I please replace the water with the most expensive dish here?" "Yes, I'll have the free breadsticks, but instead of free breadsticks can I get free shrimp and lobster, thanks?" Having a conversation about traveling. I've always wanted to road trip up to Alaska and see the northern lights. Looking at me like I'm a moron. "Oh yeah. How are you going to drive to Alaska?" "In my car." "You can't drive there." And then I realized she thought Alaska was an island. I had to explain to her that, although Alaska and Hawaii were always in little boxes next to the mainland of USA maps, that doesn't mean they're both islands. 10 years later I married her. But have your road trip to Alaska yet? We've road tripped a lot of places, but still haven't made it to Alaska. Might be a good trip for our first anniversary though. So Trump is our president, right? Does that mean he's in charge of our state or the whole world? Sorry, but I've never understood this whole president thing. This was asked to me by a fellow high school senior in civics class. That person is potentially old enough to vote. Just think about that. If you were having a good day, and they are discussing lowering the age to 16 here in Michigan. When PT Cruisers first came out, the very first one my mother saw was a black one. She actually thought it was a hearse for children or midgets. I'm not making this up. Close. A PT Cruiser is a hearse for the driver's dignity. A dealer repeatedly tried to convince me to buy a PT Cruiser. I lived near Dallas, and he told me how X from the Dallas Cowboys didn't think he would like it, but then after driving one he bought 2 of them. I told him that's great, but it's not gonna convince me to buy an ugly car. Ended up buying from different dealer, of course. One of my good friends builds computers. He sold me the components of his old desktop, and he brought it over to my house, so he could transfer them to a new case for me, and then build his new computer. It was taking a while and my mom was agitated that he was there so long, and asked, "Is what you're doing even legal?" That's such a mom question. So is when she asks when the game ends. Depends on it, like in Overwatch, when I honestly had no idea when the game was over. I didn't get to play that whole night. I used to work at a bakery. A customer once asked me, When the bread isn't warm anymore, that means it's not fresh anymore, so I can have it for free, right? No. Hello, fellow former bakery worker. Once I was boxing up donuts for a customer when they asked how many were in the box. Me, 6. Them, oh, okay. How many left to make it a dozen? Me, 6. Them, yes, I know. How many more do I need to make it a dozen? Me, sigh. Gotta throw the whole customer away. My cousin bought a map from a nearby fancy store for tourists. After perusing it for no less than 2 hours, she asked me, how does this north-south stuff work? The side I'm facing is north, right? And if I turn right, north also turns right. No? She was 20. The school system has failed us. Can we stop automatically blaming the school system and realize that the student shares responsibility too? So Op's cousin sounds like someone who never cared about school anyway. My stepmom once asked if islands float around in the ocean. My brother burst out laughing, and I just looked flatly at my dad and said, "You married this woman." We still give her grief about it. Classic. My mom once asked if the next solar eclipse would be at day or night. Still bring it up all the time. Well, technically speaking, it could be night. Next one visible in your area obviously has to be during day, but there could be one 12 hours ahead. But since it's night for you, you wouldn't see it. Going through the border from Canada into the U.S. Border guard, what's your citizenship? Me, hands over passport, which notes my birthplace as Vancouver, British Columbia, Canadian. Border guard, no, what's your citizenship? Me, louder, I'm Canadian. Border guard, yelling, what's your citizenship? Me, I don't know what you're asking me. Border guard, where were you born? Was it Colombia? Me, British Columbia is a province in Canada. Border guard, waves me through. An American woman was denied entry onto a plane because her driver's license said Washington, District of Columbia. She did not have her passport as it was a domestic flight. Used to live in DC. Got all sorts of stupid questions. Some thought my ID was from Colombia, the South American nation. Others insisted that my ID must be fake because Washington DC is just the White House and Capitol and monuments and stuff. Others just said things like, oh, you live in DC, Maryland or Virginia. Most of these came from US citizens, some from TSAP, local government employees, rental car associates, and other people who check IDs regularly as part of their occupation. A friend of my daughter's, when they were 15 or 16, was staying at our home one weekend. As she did most weekends, she was crying. My daughter was laughing and told her to ask me. She was scared that she may be pregnant because she had had unprotected sex with another girl. I had to explain to her that that wasn't how it worked. She thought that because she had an orgasm, that meant she was pregnant. I want to laugh, but yet I feel pity more for lack of adequate sex education in the world. Yeah, for some reason this gets me as sad more than anything. My wife at the time saw the headline "Buffalo buried in 5 feet of snow." I don't remember the exact measurement. She asked why don't they just dig the poor guy out? There was a picture of the city under the headline. On a related note, I remember a friend asking me during the days of Hurricane Katrina if the original Orleans was destroyed by a hurricane too. He thought that New Orleans was built to replace old Orleans. I notified him of the existence of this little thing called France. Oh my god, France was destroyed by a hurricane? I had an American ask me if California was a state. I had a Canadian ask me what provinces are. People are astounding. I've had a Brit in his late 20s ask me if all the counties that end in shire such as Buckinghamshire, Trumptonshire, Northamptonshire, Hertfordshire, or Bedfordshire were actually large cities in a large county called shire. 26 of England's 48 counties end in shire. That's one massive county. Geography standards in school are seriously slipping. He also had no clue how to tell the time on an analog clock. I was a freshman in college sitting in biology class and had a girl raise her hand and ask, "This might be dumb, but what do trees do?" The teacher had to ask her if she was being serious, which she said yes, and the look on his face was priceless. You could tell he was thinking, how the are you even in college? Had a fellow college student ask the professor, do the trees move because the wind blows, or does the wind blow because the trees move? To be fair, the dude was always high. I've got contact high just from reading that question. About 25 years ago I was explaining time zones to a 20-ish-year-old intern at a large scientific agency. She wasn't getting it, so I got an orange I brought for lunch and used it as the earth. Me, okay, pretend this is the earth. The sun only shines on one side, so it's day on approximately half at any given time. Now since the earth rotates, as I spin the orange, in turn, so wait, hold on. So you're saying the earth is round? I wish I was joking. Jim, no, of course it's not just round. It is an oblate spheroid. Thank you for correcting. When I was in college right before Thanksgiving break, a person in my class asked my American friend if he celebrates Thanksgiving because he was Jewish. They should have asked which Chinese restaurant do they order from on Christmas. My favorite anecdote about being Jewish and getting Chinese on Christmas. My old high school friend Sam, who is Jewish, moved to Wyoming to work as a ski instructor and outdoor guide. He griped on Facebook that Wyoming was so gay even the Chinese restaurants were closed on Christmas. Do you speak American? This was in Paris, and we were sitting at a cafe next to this middle-aged woman and her husband. She was the one who asked. I looked at her kind of stunned, and she seemed to catch herself. I mean English, she said. Yes, I replied. Can you read this menu for me? I can't bloody read French. I want an omelette. I want an omelette and some fruit. I took the menu from her, and the whole menu was written in English. Top 3 most memorable travel experiences I've ever had. Unfortunately. Just curious, what the hell did she think an omelette was in French? The candidates, same person. When is Cinco de Mayo? And how do they redraw that yellow line across the football field so fast after every play? I went to a predominantly white high school, and we had a student ask one of our teachers what Cinco de Mayo was all about. Without missing a beat, he goes into this 10-minute lecture about how important mayo was to the Mexican economy back in WW2. Mexico was considering aiding with the Germans, just to protect their precious mayo shipments. It wasn't until a German U-boat sank one of the biggest mayo tankers that they decided to stay out of the war and offer tacit support to the Americans. To this day the Mexicans still remember the Cinco de Mayo. That's either the dumbest one answer to a question or some grand masterclass ad trolling. I work at a coffee shop. Here are some of the gems I've gotten over the years. Do you have hot water? Do lattes have coffee in them? Do you sell hamburgers? Looking at the bottled beverages case, are these all the drinks you have? Do you have espresso? Pointing at the tip jar, can I have those? What can you give me for free? Is all your coffee whole bean before you grind it? That reminds me of when I worked in a cafe and a customer asked if we sell cigarettes. We didn't. Not a stupid question on their part, but the employee they asked had been working there for months and had no idea if we did. He eventually had to ask the owner. Yeah, he didn't last long. I was confiding in my friend about my depression via text, and he asked, "Does that mean you need a boyfriend?" and gave me that annoying ass emoji, as if I didn't just tell him that I wanted to kill myself by overdosing. I was talking to a friend on Skype once about how I'd actually been in an abusive relationship for 2 years, and that's why I stopped getting online, only to have him hit on me and start talking about how horny he was. Specifically right after I was talking about how I was messed up because my cat got eaten by coyotes. I just deleted his contact. I have no idea how people can lack empathy to such a profound degree. I have listened to her and been sympathetic and nice. Surely I have done enough work for her to want to have sex with me.